So we're going to have a mixture of questions from the people at home on our live stream and our audience here. So thank you, the three of you, for coming back. And I have a whole list here. But we're going to start with our people here. So if you just raise your hands, is it me? Okay, I will repeat your question so the people at home can hear your question, and then allow them to answer. Okay.
Dr. Joshi, you mentioned something about ketamine using it nasal daily was not a good idea. If you could just talk more about that.
Okay, let me repeat it. Okay, so the question was, why does Dr. Joshi not like nasal ketamine being used daily?
So, you heard a presentation about central sensitization. You heard a presentation about some of the amazing mechanisms of action of ketamine, but you also heard me very specifically say that this is absolutely not advocacy for daily ketamine use. And the reason is very simple. The goal of what we're trying to do is reset the central nervous system so it's not so hyperalgesic, so it's not stuck in that wind-up phenomenon. But once you reset, you want to get out. You don't need that drug floating around. And to properly reset those receptors, you have to hit a very specific plasma level that's individualized. Every patient's going to be a little different. You give a little too much, you have side effects, a little too little, it's not effective. And the side effects, if you have too many side effects, we've seen it can actually adversely affect your outcomes. Not that patients are going to be worse long term, but the experience, when we talked about the fact that pain is an experiential process and your brain processes it that way, if that experience is not perceived as a good experience, that infusion may reset whatever, but may also set in whatever that negative experience was, thus a net zero. So you want to get in, get out, have a positive experience. You want to reach a certain plasma level. There's a couple reasons why oral or nasal ketamine do not allow us to do that. Number one, when you're taking it oral or nasally, you're seeing a peak plasma level. You're seeing a big spike and a big drop-off. While in some cases that might be better than nothing, you're really not doing a ketamine infusion at that point. So you're not seeing the same benefits. But here's what happens when that becomes the norm and you do that every day, is you start seeing daily NMDA inhibition as well as the multiple other pathways that we had talked about. Well, we know very specifically that too much ketamine or constant antagonism of the NMDA receptor can actually lead to neural degeneration. What does that mean in English? That means you're going to be killing your nerves off. You're going to be causing problems because the NMDA receptor, all these receptors are there for a reason. Okay, and that one is actually very intimately involved in gene expression and proper neuroplasticity and proper nerve function. So the lack of it is going to decrease proper gene expression and proper nerve function and health. So that's why. So there's multiple reasons. One, you're not really getting the benefits of what you do with infusion. And two, you may be actually causing what you don't want to do, which is more nerve degeneration.
Thank you. Next question? Right here?
I just have a question too for Dr. Joshi. How long does the ketamine infusion last, and is it something that you build up a tolerance to?
Okay, the question was, how long does a ketamine infusion last, and is it something you build up a tolerance to?
Every patient is different, so some patients will have benefits that can be as short as only a few days, which still in some cases is better than 0 minutes, which is what some patients have experienced. We've seen patients who have gotten relief for many months, okay? We have no evidence that there is a tolerance that's developed. That being said, we're using it incredibly responsibly. I don't know what would happen if people started doing infusions every day or started taking oral or nasal ketamine every day. I don't know what would happen. Again, it's not an opiate, so you don't see the same tolerance that develops there. But you may see another pathway that may develop. That's why we sort of say, use it for what it is, get in, get out, and then hopefully we don't have to use it again for a while.
Okay, right here, John. Okay, for Dr. Geraghty. Where are some good places to find mindfulness information online?
Great. There's quite a few places, and one is I actually do a daily blog and such, Mindful Moments by Dr. G on Facebook. I also discuss psychological difficulties in addition to chronic pain and mindfulness, and then I'm also at Mindful Dr. G at Twitter. And there's also, if you type in mindfulness, John Kabat-Zinn in Google search, and in YouTube videos, he's one of my favorites. There's many different books by him, online discussions, things in that nature. And if you go ahead and email me, I'd be happy to give you a more detailed list.
And the second one was for cameras. What was the ratio to not get a high, but get the medical benefit?
Okay, the question was, what's the ratio of CBD and THC to not feel the high but receive medical benefits?
Yeah, generally, like Dr. Joshi said about the ketamine, everybody is different, but generally a 3-to-1 ratio CBD to THC is going to diminish the negative side effect of impairment.
Okay, thank you. In the back, in the blue?
For McCann, if a new resident to the state of Illinois would have to see a doctor here for a full 12 months, or will they accept as state paperwork if you had a family doctor for all those years prior to moving to Illinois?
Okay, question is, if you're a new resident of the state of Illinois, would the new doctor accept your paperwork from out of state for your prior 12 months, correct?
Right, to the application process, to
Yeah.
the Illinois doctor.
Yeah, that's a great question. You can absolutely, you have to use an Illinois doctor to get certified in Illinois, but your medical records from Michigan or wherever you may be, you just need at least a year's worth and give it to the new doctor here in Illinois.
Thank you. In the back? Does what help with leaky gut? L-glutamine. Is L-glutamine beneficial for leaky gut?
Yes, to my understanding, that's the essence of what helps to heal the gut in the case of leaky gut. And the other thing, and Walls talked about this in her book too, but bone broth. She loves bone broth, and the combination of bone broth, which is where coming from bones, you get a lot of the glutamine that way. Bone broth and coconut milk, okay? That combination. But even just the bone broth, which I tell my patients, you don't have to make it. I know Whole Foods, and I would imagine Trader Joe's, but Whole Foods you can buy quarts of organic, get the organic bone broth. And there are supplements that are variations or concentrations. I like to use EnduraPack by Perk. It's just glutamine in a way that's very highly absorbable to help with repairing the leaky gut, meaning repairing the space between the junctions, so they can reattach them. The cells can reattach themselves the way they're supposed to be, instead of being open.
Okay, how about some questions from our online viewers? Dr. Marco, they all want your recipe for smoothies. So we're gonna have to put it on the online chat. So home viewers will have Paul put that on the online chat.
Yeah, let me just
Okay.
say, honestly, the way it's there, I tell people, go to Costco where it's less expensive, and the idea is, get the frozen organic berry mix, get the frozen organic broccoli, and I usually get the greens. They're not in the frozen section, but as soon as you get it home, you take some out, because this is not in the recipe, take some out that you're gonna eat, and put the rest of the bag in the freezer. That way it won't go bad on you, and again, it's very nutritious. I have it every day. It's amazing. I encourage you, all of you, just on principle, we need more nutrients.
He makes a great soup too. He had us try it in the office.
No, thank you for saying that. No, the other variation you can all do, once you get it down without the fruit, just the broccoli, and then bag of mixed greens from Costco that has kale, chard, and spinach. If you just take some organic chicken broth, okay, put it in a pot and put all your vegetables in there, warm it up so it softens it, put it in the blender, just like you would a smoothie, okay? But put it in the blender, then bring it back to the pot, salt, season it to flavor. You get an amazing, highly nutritious, what I call green smoothie soup. And then you drink it from a cup, which just makes it easier. It's a great way to get your veggies in. A lot of us didn't grow up with real veggies. Lettuce doesn't count.
Thank you. Liz or Michael? Well, any of the doctors, actually. Is there a concern or a risk for secondhand smoke with cannabis? And is it safe in a household with kids and pets? And it's really any of the doctors. I'm not necessarily Liz. Anybody can answer, or all of you.
Yeah, generally, I mean, with the smoking, there's not going to be a risk of secondhand other than the irritation factor of it. So you definitely want to be cautious and, considerate of others with that. As far as around kids, I mean, definitely you treat it the same way that you would any other prescription medication. I mean, you want to keep it away from children. You want to keep it secured. You want to keep it locked. So, yeah.
Okay. Doctors?
So I'll respond to this the same way I responded in 2014. There was a CNN article where they interviewed me about cannabis and medicine, and I said, well, it was like the argument then was, gee, can it be helpful for pain? And I said, it's not really a debate. Yeah, of course it can help with pain, but there's a big difference between, a debate between does it help with pain or not versus the modality of administration. So I personally do not believe in smoking, well, quite frankly, anything. Whether it's cigarettes or marijuana or anything. You're inhaling a lot of toxins. You have no control over the plasma levels. The lungs are a great way to get very, very fast absorption. And that's where you get the hits, the highs, the stoner-like mentality, which I don't agree with. So if cannabis is going to be prescribed in a pharmaceutical type of manner where it's refined in a pharmaceutical grade manner, and we know exactly what we're getting, and we're getting it through an oil or something that's much more stable and predictable modality, that's, to me, very different. So I think, the debate should really be shifting to not can I smoke in front of my kids, but if you're going to be using cannabis for pain, use a more reliable route that's through an oil or through a food or through, even vaporizing, where you're not taking the toxins and smoking something. So that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Question in the audience? Laura?
Yes, the qualifying conditions for cannabis, those are all online, correct?
Yes, we
That-
Yes, and we have the whole list at our booth out here, so we can, but they're online as well.
The question was about the qualifying conditions for cannabis in Illinois, and Liz was answering. That's okay. We want the online viewers to know the questions. The list of qualifying conditions are all online. There are 41 right now in Illinois. They keep adding more and more. Illinois, I believe, has the majority, right? More than any other state. But they are all online, and if you go to the PharmaCannabis website, they're also there, as well as the state's website.
Do you know if it helps with anxiety and allodynia? Is that
The question was, does it help with anxiety and allodynia?
Definitely anxiety, especially the CBD. So the CBD-based products are going to be helping with the anxiety. As far as the other condition, I'm not too familiar with, the correlation of
sensitivity in the skin, with things touching on the skin?
Yeah, it is going to, it does help, with perception and, how you perceive things. So, it does help with perception of skin touch.
In the back? That's a great question. If you're using a topical medical marijuana product, does that get into you to where you would not be able to pass a drug test for a job?
Yeah, that is a great question and one that we get a lot. So with the topicals, they stay local. So they don't go systemic. You're not going to, it's not going to show up in a drug test if you're only using cannabis topically.
That's a great question. Thank you. Okay, let's take some more from home. Dr. Joshi, I'm going to read it just like it's written. Why do my doctors seem to be so concerned about liver issues and cognitive issues with long-term ketamine use? Long-term ketamine use.
Yep. So, I kind of described what my views on I guess, long-term, like, I don't know what long-term here means. I mean, if you're getting an infusion once every 2 months for 10 years, is that long-term ketamine use? I don't categorize that. To me, long-term ketamine use would be like a daily, daily administration. So one of the big reasons, 2 reasons why I think there would be a concern if that's the case is, number one, it's metabolized by the liver. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily hepatotoxic, which means that it destroys the liver, but it's metabolized by the liver. There was one study that came out many years ago that said that ketamine can be hepatotoxic. That study has never been repeated. That study has never been validated. And that study was also, I believe, in very high levels in rats. So, take it for what it's worth. It is not like acetaminophen, which acetaminophen can be hepatotoxic by directly, affecting the liver and destroying the liver. So I think part of it is maybe a little misunderstanding on the drug. A lot of physicians don't really understand it. The ones that have heard of it have seen this one article and they're all freaked out by it. A lot of them don't understand the mechanism. But that being said, we don't quite know what the person who asked the question, how much they're on, how much they're taking, and I think probably the bigger question should be, should you even be on that much? Are you causing more damage to your nerves, which I think is probably more of a possibility than hepatotoxicity, is neurotoxicity from taking too much and inhibiting the NMDA receptors, thus not allowing them to function in a proper way.
I just want to add that one of the things that I'm much more sensitive to than I was, say, 10 years ago, and I mentioned some of it, the whole idea of detoxification, okay? Whether it's a good drug, a well-meaning drug, the fact is most of us should be doing some kind of liver support. Some of the best ones are milk thistle. I mean, they've been around for a long time. Milk thistle, alpha-lipoic acid, and you can find some very good quality. Pretty much anybody should be. And it's interesting that Dr. Joshi points out, a lot of you don't know that the #1 cause of acute liver failure is Tylenol overdose. So simple Tylenol that we've been given to babies can be quite toxic. So the point being, if you're taking anything regularly, you should just make it a point, even if you're not, if you're just living, I think you should be doing some sort of, there's a lot of good stuff, including herbal remedies, but at least milk thistle, it's more liver protectant, and I like alpha-lipoic acid a lot too, but you can sometimes get mixtures of good quality products, just don't get the cheap stuff, get at least something in the middle price. But do your detox.
You can keep the mic because the next question's for you. Why is it, do you think, that we stop doing what's best for us when we're stressed?
Because when we're stressed, we lose our way, and that's why, as I mentioned, ultimately, when you talk about mindfulness, when you talk about breath awareness, you're talking about how do I become higher in consciousness? How do I become more balanced? How do I become more at peace so I can weather the storms? Because everybody's going to get storms. And stress is so much a part of life and inevitable that often I tell my patients, the reason we're talking about stress is because you don't know how to manage stress. You can manage stress if you're doing it. So if you're managing your stress, you're doing so. So it's something that we just don't do enough to work on as a culture. I mean, we've taught children to wash their hands so as not transmit germs, right? And that's something that 150 years ago doctors would laugh at. They wouldn't accept the evidence from Pasteur or Dr. Lister. But the idea is we have to, as a culture, get to the point about washing our thoughts. The importance of, because so much of stress management is ultimately how you manage it in the mind, which is why mindfulness is so powerful. Mm-hmm. It's just, you don't change the world, you just change the way you react or how much you're going to react. And that's something we owe not only to ourselves, but for Christ's sake, teach it to our children.
I'd like to answer
Sure.
more of that too. Thank you.
Sure.
So also, when we're stressed out, if we're not taking care of ourselves with coping skills and mindful breathing, diaphragmatic breathing and such on a daily basis, when we're at our normal baseline, when we tank or different stressors happen or pain levels raise, then it's harder for us to get out of that. So then that's when we become more depressed, more anxious, and it takes a little longer to get out of that. So if we're practicing these things such as gratitude, mindfulness, coping skills on a daily basis, then that's going to be easier for us when we are in a difficult spot.
Keep the mic. As a person with pain, what is your advice on how to confront your GP if they make you feel uncomfortable or if you're feeling judged?
Yes, so it really depends on the judgment. With some GPs, if you go in and you get judged and you don't feel that there's any way to smooth over that relationship, say it was something that really hit you to the core and you just feel that they are not an empathetic person, then that means it's time to get a new GP. However, sometimes when we're really stressed out and we're feeling vulnerable and we go into a doctor's appointment and they might say something that we might not like or get hurt by, sometimes it might be best to think it over. Maybe you misunderstood, maybe they didn't say it correctly, and then in the next appointment bring it up. When you had said this, I took offense, and I'm wondering if we can talk about that because I'm having a hard time, trusting you now. So being able to go that route. So it really depends on the relationship that you already have with your physician on if that's repairable or not.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Joshi, why cognitive behavioral therapy? Can you touch on why so many pain conditions are being tossed over to psychological disorders? I don't mean comorbid, just as a denial of biological basis.
So I'll split that up in two answers because I think there's two separate questions. So one is cognitive behavioral therapy is, I guess, one question, and the other is why do so many physicians think that you're just nuts? So cognitive behavioral therapy, I think, really is, to me, more categorized under mindfulness, really. So I have nothing against it. I think it's wonderful, and really, I guess you guys could even expand on that. Now, why do so many physicians in general think that pain patients are nuts? Because they're nuts. I don't know. Maybe that's the best answer, huh? Yeah. Okay. This actually is a long answer. I'll summarize it. If we still today, how many medical schools in America have formal pain management curriculums? And the answer is 0. Big fat donut. That's a big problem, considering that pain is the reason we see physicians now. We define pain in my presentation, so pain is why we see them. If something's bothering you see something. That's actually considered pain. But we have literally, I gave a lecture about a month ago, and there was 2 med students there, and they confirmed the same thing. They had no pain management training in their medical school. And they started talking about this rare disease called, what was it called? Leishmanian or something like that. Remember that? I don't even remember what it's called because I haven't seen it ever. And it's like 4 people in the world have it. And they spent days talking about it, and they have literally, no joke, these med students didn't even know what neuropathic pain was. They had never heard of CRPS. And I showed them a slide on claims data of all the neuropathic pain claims data, insurance claims data, 10% were CRPS. And these guys are graduating. I gave this lecture in July. They were graduating at the end of July. They never even heard of it. So how do you expect them to know anything about pain? Where are they going to learn from pain? They're going to learn it from when they do their residency from their attending, who is older than Moses, who was trained that pain patients are nuts and depressed and psychotic and crazy. Do you guys remember? So fibromyalgia, no joke, this is what is taught. Fibromyalgia, female, 40, fat, and annoying. I'm sorry, I'm not being offensive. That is what is taught. Am I wrong? That is what is taught. So that's why we have a problem.
No, I teach medical students at Rush, and part of the problem is, even when I was trained, our system is really run, how can I say it? It's fed by the pharmaceutical industry. Respectfully, I'm not here to bash them, but generally, when you're in medical school and you're being taught all the latest stuff, it's going to be the latest stuff that came from research by pharmaceutical industries. So they're not going to research whether vitamin C can really make a difference with a cold or reduce inflammation. And if they don't have a simple cure or haven't come up with something that they can sell, it's not going to be researched, so you're not going to hear about it. So a lot of the curriculum is really built around, look how many, we have so many diabetes medications. Not one of them cures diabetes, right? What cures it is diet and exercise. So it's just a model, and it's not that your physicians, in a sense, don't care, but most people, again, it goes back to consciousness. Even when we're young, remember when we were in high school? If I don't understand you, it's not I don't understand you, it's you're weird or you're crazy. And that's, again, that's part of the human condition.
Here's another thing with this. If all these doctors and professionals up here recognize that pain needs to be treated on a biopsychosocial spiritual level as it affects every portion of us. If you have a doctor who tells you just go see a psychiatrist or a psychologist, you need a new doctor, because we are all a part of this system. We all need to support the patient and be able to talk together to be able to support people as a whole. It's not just bits and pieces. You are not crazy.
Right.
No. Remember that? No. This is one that I do share with my patients a lot. And, you know, there's a beautiful, I'm probably from the 1800s, but the task of medicine is to cure sometimes, relieve often, and comfort always. And that last part, which was so great before pharmaceutical industry, you know, tried to take medicine to another level, was always, you know, you can count on your physician to make the house call. If nothing else, just hold your hand. You know, that's what they had to do sometimes. They'd stay up all night with you because they didn't know if the baby was going to make it that night. And that's what's changed. That comfort always has kind of been slowly, and I don't think it's a, you know, on purpose, but it's definitely omission.
Okay. The next question is really for pharmacists, but for doctors that have a really open relationship with their patients, they might be able to answer this too. Do you hear about a lot of people moving from using recreational marijuana to medical cannabis? And if so, why, besides the legal risk?
Yeah, so definitely the biggest difference is that you know, it's tested, it's regulated, you know, for pesticides, fungicides, and then you have consistency with your medication time after time. So, you know, definitely, you know, strains are different and it's a plant. I mean, so, you know, it's not like, you know, a synthetic substance that you're making in a petri dish. I mean, it is an herb, it is a plant. But at the same time, you have a cannabinoid profile on each of your medication bottles that tell you exactly how much THC, exactly how much CBD, so that you could recreate that experience time after time again. So that's the biggest difference between medicinal and recreational. A lot of the times, you know, we hear from people that have been using it medicinally, even though, you know, it's recreational, maybe they've been doing it illegally. A lot of the times they say, you know, 1 week I'll have great medicinal benefit, and then the next week I'll see my person and, you know, it's something different, and I'm suffering all week. And then the next week I'll feel good, and the next week suffering. So the inconsistency versus the consistency is the biggest difference between recreational and medical.
Okay.
Some of my patients have told me that they first, before they were thinking about getting the card, is that they tried it recreationally and they did not have any benefits from it, and maybe just actually nothing happened. They couldn't get high, they couldn't have pain relief, anything like that, and then decided to go the medicinal route, and then they were finding benefits. So again, it's exactly what you were talking about the compounds, and it's quite different.
Okay, on that same note, none of the other doctors wanted to answer? Okay. On that same note, I just saw on the Pharmacanis website that your products are sun-grown. What difference does, or not, what benefit does that provide over other cultivators?
Yeah, so sun-grown in soil is, you know, how we cultivate our products, so it's more natural. It's more of a natural product. It's more natural environment that the plant is growing in, instead of an indoor environment where they might be, you know, manipulating the lighting. They might be manipulating the nutrients that they're pumping in. Where sun-grown in soil is we're growing it more naturally, the way that it would grow naturally in the world. So.
Okay, and then I have a legal medical marijuana card in Illinois, but it was obtained when the law was 1 year, $100. Now it's been changed to 3 year, $300. How do I renew, convert, etc.?
That is a fabulous question that we're getting often, because this was just changed. So what's going to happen right now, all patients who currently have a medical cannabis card, they're going to get a letter from the Illinois Department of Public Health by the end of this month. In that application, it's going to say, do you want to renew or not? If you're renewing your card, it's going to be $200. So they already paid the $100 for this first year. They're just writing a check for $200 to the Illinois Department of Public Health. Their card will last 2 more years. Then when their card expires, they'll go on the 3-year plan.
Okay. Thank you. Questions in the audience? Right here. Okay, the question was, how can I find a health psychologist or health therapist with chronic pain experience that might be half as great as you?
Thank you.
I'm paraphrasing.
Yes, so thank you. So typically gold standard treatment for treating chronic pain patients, a person should be a clinical health psychologist or a clinical rehabilitation psychologist. However, very hard to find. You're exactly right. So what I would suggest is a lot of the specifically trained psychologists that work with pain are mostly linked to pain clinics and hospitals. So it would be best to start calling around there. Also checking out APA.org, the American Psychological Association website, reaching out to them. I'm sorry, what was that?
Repeat the website.
Yes, APA.org. And that stands for the American Psychological Association. And then they have a health psychology and rehabilitation psychology tabs and such that might be of some service. But yes, it's very difficult to find outpatient people who actually know what they're doing. In my clinical experience, what happens is there's lots of my patients who will go see other therapists before me who aren't properly trained in chronic pain, and by the time they get to me, things have been made a lot worse. Just not knowing the different biochemical components of pain, the biopsychosocial spiritual functions in general, so it's very important to get someone who is properly trained.
Okay, more questions? Jean? Is leaky gut similar to IBS?
No. In my experience, IBS, the good news is most of the IBS that I've treated, or people that come to with a diagnosis, it's, in my experience, almost always food sensitivities, food allergies. But those same food allergies, here's the connection, those same food allergies, for example, say you're eating grains or something that's irritating you, and certain foods, because they're full of lectins, which are inflammatory proteins, are irritating. They just are. Just like too much alcohol, too much ibuprofen. So they can create then the leaky gut. And so ideally, when I get people off grains and dairy, they start to get better. Then I explain to them the connection between leaky gut and the food sensitivities. But a lot of them will get better just getting off grains and dairy. But then it's like saying, okay, well, now let's go back and repair the leaky gut, because it's just a good chance. And you could do some tests, but really, most medicine, as I've come to know it after 35 years, is clinical. It's like they try to tell you, but we didn't listen. We thought it was all about labs. It's pretty much in the history. So either way, you're going to have both. But definitely the first thing I would do is get off the grains and dairy, and not just wheat. A lot of people definitely improve with wheat, especially nowadays where the new wheat is GMO, more inflammatory than the old wheat. But even the old wheat was a little inflammatory. So get off, if nothing else, get off grain and regular wheat first, and dairy as much as you can. But if you can get off all grains, you'll see for yourself. And oh, by the way, the essence of finding out, so you don't have to spend a lot of time on food testing or allergy testing, is the elimination diet. Take out those foods for 2 weeks, and on day 15, eat a lot of it. You usually be hit so hard that you'll have no doubt that you're sensitive to those foods. Lipoic acid, not folic.
Lipoic acid.
For liver. Here's another good point. If anybody has had food sensitivities for a while, they probably have had leaky gut. If you've had leaky gut, all these substances are getting in that should not be getting in. They're creating an inflammatory response. The immune system is overactive. That's creating a lot of more toxins, things that need to be detoxified. So your liver is automatically going to have to be working harder if you have IBS, if you have leaky gut. It's like saying if there's a battle going on over there, not only are they killing each other, but they're polluting the air and the waters. Okay? So ultimately, all that stuff, and that's why the gut liver connection, you hear about it much. Gut, immune system, liver connection. It's all like one system, really.
Okay, Lori. Who wants to take the question about the heavy metal testing?
Yeah, there's the general standard test that I know that I've used is one where you challenge with DMSA, which is an oral chelator, and then you collect urine from 6 hours to 24 hours. I usually use the 6 hours, and that'll usually give you some results. Okay, it's pretty straightforward and it's not expensive. Some insurance companies will cover it, some won't, but generally it's like only like $100 or $120. The main lab is called Doctors Data. I think they're out of Joliet, Doctors Data, and they'll send you a kit, or you can definitely get it from practitioners. Most practitioners that do nutritional natural medicine, even chiropractors, will be familiar with it. But you may, to get the DMSA, I'm sorry, you may have to get that from a prescriber, from a physician.
Okay, any more before we, oh, a couple more. Okay, right here on the left.
Could you tell me if you have a choice of 6 oxys a day or cannabis, what would your long-term side effects?
Okay, I'm going to give this one to Dr. Joshi. Dr. Joshi, if you have a choice between 6 oxys or long-term cannabis, what would your choice be?
That's it.
I already know the answer. That's why I gave it to him.
All right, so okay, so let me Gracie, you
How
already
much
know.
time is he?
Yeah. Well, you already know what
I'm
my
putting
first
you on a
sentence.
timer.
Yeah, you already know my first sentence, right? So I actually pride myself in probably being the only pain physician in America who, in the 16 years of having an MD, has never prescribed a single molecule of oxycodone. That includes OxyContin, Percocet, oxycodone, roxicodone, and they're all the same molecule. Why? Because I don't believe in that molecule, not because of efficacy, but because of all the problems. It has the highest likability, the highest rate of addiction, the highest dopaminergic response, the highest street value. It's probably killed more people than any other legal opiate. And if you know, there's a certain pharmaceutical company that has mismarketed it as non-addictive to physicians, and those idiot physicians actually believed it and created this opiate nightmare because of that drug. So that drug, to me, represents everything that's wrong with pain management. And so from a philosophical standpoint, I refuse to prescribe it. So that's why I'm saying that's it, because it leaves me basically one other option. If those were my only 2 options, then obviously cannabis will win, because I refuse to write oxycodone for that reason. Now,
It was not going to be a one-word answer.
yeah, now that being said, there are other opiate medications that I do believe are safer and less habit-forming, less opiate-induced hyperalgesia. So that's important too. I actually think oxycodone has higher opiate-induced hyperalgesia than some of the other opiates on the market. And we've seen that actually firsthand with some of the stuff we've done. So if the question was other opiate medications versus cannabis, it depends on the patient. I guess I'll leave it at that then. I mean, there's so many other molecules on the market. I mean, you have obviously hydrocodone, you have morphine, you have hydromorphone, you have now you have a new one called tapentadol. You've got fentanyl, obviously. You've got now another one called levorphanol, which has been around for a while, reintroduced. You've methadone. You've a lot of different ones. A lot of them have their own issues. Some of them have advantages, some have disadvantages. But again, it just goes back to individualized care. There isn't one solution for every individual patient. And that's why, for me, it's impossible to answer. Now, if you had some other guy up here, he'd be like, oh, yeah, everyone gets this or everyone gets that. I mean, it really comes down to the patient.
I have heard that there is memory loss with long-term cannabis. Is that true?
Okay, let me repeat the question. Is there memory loss with long-term cannabis use?
I would say from smoking marijuana, we absolutely have that data. Now, I guess you guys can answer what you guys think will happen with your sort of pharmaceutically derived.
Dr. Joshi is differentiating combusting the marijuana from every other form.
Yeah, because I'm sorry. Well, okay, I'll let you guys. But again, it goes back to smoking the toxins too, right? So we got to remember there's that along with the THC.
Yeah, and even to take it a step further, instead of smoking, just cannabis ingestion. So with cannabis ingestion, there's short-term time lapse. I mean, there are side effects from some smoking cannabis, dry eyes, a little bit of impairment. But it's short-term. I mean, I haven't read any research studies that ethically validate long-term, impairment or memory issues. It's short-term stuff that I've seen. So.
Okay, back here, you. Okay, the question is coming from, you're a nurse in a trauma ER that uses ketamine for their trauma patients, and she occasionally sees some negative side effects. So the question for Dr. Joshi is, how do you moderate side effects from ketamine in your setting?
Yeah, so big difference. Obviously, the setting difference is obviously very different. We're able to do infusions, which are nice steady states, and we're able to do that over many hours, where we can really customize what is the best dose for that patient. In your setting, you don't have that luxury. It's kind of like, okay, we got to give something now. And some patients are definitely more sensitive than others, which is why you're seeing the variability, with some saying, oh my gosh, never give that to again, and others are not. It is definitely dose dependent, but it's also patient dependent. You want to definitely pre-medicate them with midazolam or something like that, a benzodiazepine that can help lower those side effects. But obviously in a trauma setting, it's difficult. Sometimes you can't use sedatives because they may have low blood pressure. You may be worried about the airway, et cetera. So definitely much harder for you guys to modulate it than for us.
Okay, and I think Lori, yep.
I had a follow-up question on the long-term effects of the
Cannabis?
cannabis, and actually of pediatric, but do we know anything about long-term effects on ketamine? Like, how leaky is the research on long-term medicinal cannabis?
Okay, so
How many years back did that go?
the question really is, do we have any really long-term research on, long-term research on long-term effects of cannabis or ketamine? And I'm going to toss it to all of you.
Yeah, with the cannabis, I mean, we are just touching the iceberg on what we can learn and what we know about it. Just because, like we were talking about, it's in that Schedule 1 category, that's really been a huge barrier behind what we could do in the U.S. as far as researching it and studying it. If you look over in Israel, I mean, there's a gentleman, Dr. Machulam, that developed in 1956. He's the one that discovered THC. So definitely, I mean, we've had long-term studies that are coming from other countries, but in the U.S., I mean, nothing too predominant, just because of that scheduling and where it's at with the government. And we definitely need to learn more. So that's.
Okay, Dr. Joshi?
So ketamine was FDA approved in 1970. It was discovered, 8 years before that. So obviously we have a lot of anecdotal data, a lot of sort of. You could look retrospectively and see what kind of claims have been made, and but that being said, how it's been used has been so variable. I've already come out and said I don't believe in its daily use, and I don't know how much data we have on daily use, but we definitely have scientific models that show that daily use can actually hurt normal nerve function. So we don't believe in that. Now, using it literally once every month or 2 months, it's something that's so easily and quickly metabolized and out of your system. I would imagine that the 20 medications that patient's taking on a daily basis are going to be much more harmful than one that's every couple months.
So detoxify.
So detoxify. Okay, last question.
You mentioned other country studies on long-term cannabis. What are those studies?
Okay, the question is, Michael had mentioned other countries studying cannabis for a long time, so can you address that?
Well, yeah, definitely the one that comes to mind is a company, GW Pharmaceuticals out of the UK. So what they've done is they've been testing a product that's called Sativex. So this Sativex product, it's a 1:1 ratio CBD to THC, and they have it in phase 3 clinical trials. So definitely, I mean, other countries are having some efficacious data that are coming out, showing that there's benefits. With the testing that GW Pharmaceuticals, they were testing a lot of nerve pain, they were testing seizures, they were testing MS patients, and they showed a decrease, in all these things. Yeah, I mean, as far as studies documenting long-term side effects, nothing substantial. I mean, I think that overseas they've been studying the medicinal benefit, and really, I mean, in the U.S., that's where a lot of since 1937, a lot of our research has been going is on the negative effects of cannabis, and really, there's nothing concrete. I mean, really, it's sort of sketchy the stuff that we have. So in the U.S., we've been hard looking for the negative side effects. And the other countries have been looking for the exact opposite, the benefits of it. And we, nothing that I know of, so.
Okay, thank you so much to our panel of speakers. We really appreciate you being here and donating your time.
And thank you to you, Gracie.
Thank you,
Thank
Gracie.
you to Gracie as well.